Hi, this is the Stabcast about the Nile River Valley and ancient Egypt. Okay, guys, I'm back. The essential question: how is Egypt the gift of the Nile? Let's find out, shall we? I think we shall. Alright, so here's the deal. The Nile River. The Nile River is the longest river in the world, and it goes on for 4,000 miles. Alright, I guess you could say it goes on for Niles and Niles. I stole that joke. The Nile River is located in Egypt, the modern-day country of Egypt. And if you take a look at this map right here, that green area is what we're talking about when we talk about ancient Egypt. And you can see the Nile River kind of goes that way. And you can see most of it is set up along that Nile River, because the Nile is going to be really important because, well, Egypt's in the middle of a desert. All right, some other environmental challenges, okay? The Nile floods predictably, which is really good compared to Mesopotamia, where the river's flooded unpredictably. These guys are going to know when the river floods. It's going to enable them to set up a calendar and to have growing seasons. The reason the flooding is good is because it's going to flood, it's going to recede, or the flood's going to go away, and it's going to leave behind this mud called silt, which is really fertile and good for growing things. Another challenge is that there's a number of cataracts in the river, and these cataracts are steep cliffs, which make it really hard for trade and transportation to go along the river. You're not going to be able to travel from one end to the other strictly on the river. You're going to have to get out, walk for a little bit, and then hop back into the river with your boat. So that is a challenge that the cataracts are going to, pose for people who are trying to use the river for trade and transportation. Like I said before, most of Egypt is desert, and it's the Nile River that's going to make civilization in Egypt possible. So the question then is, why do historians call Egypt the gift of the Nile? Okay, well, the Nile is going to provide water for farming and for drinking. Farming is going to lead to permanent settlements, and permanent settlements lead to civilization. It's that chain of events that always happens when a group of people decide to settle down in one spot. Okay, so Egypt, again, it's the gift of the Nile. The delta regions at the mouth of the river, that's the area that's going to be the most fertile, because that's the area where there's the most water running through during the flood, and it leaves the most silt behind, and it's the best for farming. The papyrus plant, which grows along the river, is going to be used to form paper. And the Nile is going to give them access to the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, which is going to make for really good trade conditions. Again, Egypt's very lucky to have the Nile River. Without it, probably wouldn't exist. So let's talk about some of the other evidence of civilization. All right, if you remember, there are a number of different aspects that any society needs to have to be considered a civilization. One of those is cities. Egypt is going to have a number of major cities, including the cities of Memphis and Thebes. Giza is also going to be a major one. They're going to have a very, centralized government. It's a theocracy led by a pharaoh. Theocracy is a government that's led by a religious figure, a religious leader. The pharaoh, as you'll see, is going to be considered godlike. They're going to have a religion. Again, that's part of civilization. They have people who work as priests. They believe in the afterlife, and that's evidenced by their use of mummification. They also believe in polytheism, more than one god. In fact, the Egyptian religion also believed that cats were God, and I actually have an Egyptian god statue right here. Hello, kitty. How you doing? Okay, I'll see you later. Alright, so Hello Kitty's gonna leave, and I dropped my headphone. Let me pick that bad boy up. People don't believe that I film these in one take, like I would leave those mistakes in. Anyway, they also have a written language. The written language is known as hieroglyphics. We'll see some of those in the next slide. And lastly, they're going to use science and technology. They mummify dead bodies, so the person has it available to them in the afterlife. They're going to build the pyramids. They have irrigation for getting water to crops. They use math and geometry to build those pyramids, and they have some early forms of medicine. That is an example of Egyptian hieroglyphics. You can kind of see just pictures. Those pictures are going to stand for sounds, and they're going to use that to write language, keep records. Again, we talked about the pharaoh. The pharaoh is a divine ruler in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians believe that the pharaoh is godlike. The pharaoh has similar powers to those of a god. They're going to build pyramids. Those pyramids are going to be tombs for their deceased rulers. And they're going to mummify dead pharaohs also. They believe in an afterlife. In order to preserve the pharaoh's body, they need to be mummified. And there's some mummies. Hi, mummy. Ancient Egypt consists of two regions, Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt. Now, if you look at the map there, you can see Lower Egypt is on the top of the map. Upper Egypt is kind of in the middle. The reason Lower Egypt is north is because it's physically lower. The Nile flows from south to north because the mountains are in the south. So obviously water flows down, not up, because of gravity. So it's going to flow from Upper Egypt down to Lower Egypt. Lower Egypt's located near the Mediterranean Sea. It's in northern Egypt, near the Nile Delta. The delta is that mouth of the river where it flows out to the sea. If you look up at the top of that map, there's that kind of triangle-shaped thing, that big green blob almost. That's the Nile Delta in Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt, that's in that red box, is in southern Egypt, and it has its own separate kingdom. They kind of develop pretty separately, but they're going to come together. All right, the people of Upper Egypt in the south, they're going to build large irrigation projects to bring water from rivers to their neighboring farms. However, they're going to need to work with the people of Lower Egypt. So they work together, and they decide, you know what, it's probably a good idea to just join together. And that's pretty much the end. I'll go back there. That's pretty much the end of ancient Egypt. I'd like to thank Kitty. Hello again. For helping me out. Goodbye, Kitty.